Dr. Ram here. So during these unprecedented times with the pandemic that is happening, it becomes very important that everybody monitors, checks, and rechecks how their mental well-being are doing. And we know that your mental well-being is very connected to how your physical well-being is going to be, as well as your spiritual. So I'm very, very happy to be joined here today by some of the ministerial leadership that is going to share some of their insights on how all of us can take care of our mental health as well as our spiritual health, and how that's going to impact us as a community, how that's going to impact us going forward and through and past this pandemic. So if I can, I will ask and I will see if everybody's able to just introduce yourself so that everyone knows who we're talking to on the video, if we can. So,
Michael Fletcher, I'm the lead pastor at Fellowship Baptist Church.
Pastor Scott Gamble from Grace Lutheran Church.
Pastor Ben Lippers, I'm the captain at Salvation Army.
Candace Wiley-Taves, I'm parish nurse at Fellowship Baptist Church.
And Reverend Heather Carlson, I'm the minister at Knox United Church.
So, Robert Carson, why don't we start with you? So, again, we're trying to make that connection between our spiritual health and our mental health during this pandemic. And are there tools, or is there even a roadmap that people can use when it comes to their spiritual health during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest pieces for me is for people to realize that they are in probably some spiritual distress, some spiritual crisis. We talk a lot about looking after sort of our physical health, but we want people to know that they need to be accessing things so that even if they haven't thought about their spiritual lives before, what are those on-ramps that they can use now to care for themselves? Whether that's using some quiet, using music, just being aware that their physical and mental is also a spiritual. And to know too that there's better ways to feed yourself, just like there's junk food and then there's healthy food. In the same way, just to be aware, because there's a lot on the internet as well, to be looking at what it is that they're feeding themselves as well, and to look for those things that are going to give them that sense of groundedness and connectedness in their spiritual life.
That's excellent. And talking about the metaphors of the food there makes me wonder about the food bank and perhaps what the Salvation Army is going to be doing, both on the spiritual side, but also in the other resources and the help that you provide as an essential part of what our community has.
Right. Well, with the Salvation Army, we have, of course, we're doing the food bank. Trying to take care of that, trying to get our stocks up. We're ordering. We're running our food bank every hour on the hour to try to do social distancing. Our free shelf is every half hour. So Monday through Friday, so it's not the 2-day food bank. Now it's of course the whole week to try to keep that social distancing. So that's for physical health. Also, people have asked where they can get spiritually fed. So many churches are doing different things, but we'll have a whole list of them put on the Drumheller Christian Ministerial Association's Facebook page as to where you can find a church service. So like I know we stream Canada-wide, so that you can go on to, for ours at salvationist.ca, and you can listen to the commissioner, and that's the officer in charge of all of Canada, give a church service. So you can get fed that way. But what I want to rest assured is the Salvation Army is representing the whole ministerial and the whole Christian body. So if you want to get a hold of one of us, you can call the Salvation Army. We're open. We're an essential service because we're the food bank, and they'll be wrapping around us, helping us through this whole pandemic.
That's wonderful, and thank you so much for that. And I love that analogy, the feed your spiritual health, and that really brings us out to the fact that our physical being is obviously connected to how our spiritual health can be. So I was hoping maybe you wanted to touch on that aspect.
Sure. It's fascinating how we get up in the morning in the last couple of weeks, and the first thing we reach for is the phone to figure out what's been happening, or go to the internet to find out what's been happening. And even for myself, not realizing that, I haven't drank water all day long. Why is that? And that does affect my own spiritual life. So in that regard, having that balance between, okay, your spiritual life is important. You need to have that. So start that off right at the beginning. Don't worry about what's happening right now. Maybe take a quiet time. For me, it was walking my dog. I get out in the hills with my dog, and I was able to have a time alone and to pray and to reflect on my own life and to get exercise as well, which was so important. So marrying those two, because we are definitely spiritual beings in a physical body. So
That's fantastic. And of course, that analogy of people having their cell phone right at them, I mean, I'm very guilty of that, but I almost feel like I have it duct taped to my hand most of the time. So, but that brings in the very real thing that this is a pandemic, and people are probably grabbing onto that because their anxiety is maybe something they never considered, maybe the trauma of other things they've had in their life, and just that whole part of it and how that comes together with our physical and our spiritual. So I was maybe hoping how you can tie some of that together for us when it comes to our mental health and the other two.
I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that there is some grieving going on here. We've lost a lifestyle that we are used to. People who have depression and anxiety, this is going to be really heightened at this time. People who have never experienced any of that, they're going to start to experience it. There's some real risks, and I just really encourage, when I talk to people, I'm encouraging them to pick up the phone, don't text, call people, FaceTime people, try and connect in a more deeper way. And if you are feeling anxious, if you're struggling, please speak out and ask for help.
So that's very important. It's very hard for us as a society, as we can genderize it, and I know lots of patients with, male in general, with its stereotype that they don't or won't reach out even to the partners, so that's absolutely 100% important. And during all of this time, we know that there are other means. If we can't get out, if we can't touch base with people, there are other avenues that people can have to try and settle themselves down. And one of those big ones has been researched, has been shown that it's part of the liberal arts, and music is one of them, and there's other different tools in there that probably can be used to really bring this all together. So now we're looking at Mr. Gamble here to pool all that together for us.
Yeah, I got included on a Facebook conversation from a friend who was putting together a playlist for the pandemic. You give me fever, don't stand so close to me, all those, classic tunes, kind of makes you groan at the terrible puns, but it's a real thing, right? We're a music-loving society, and there's a reason, because it touches on something deeper. You can use music just as background noise, but often those songs really hit on something that's more significant in who we are and how we're made. And so take the time to really lean into those songs that strike a chord with your heart, that really cause you to stir up and feel something, whether it be something religious or not. Lean into those moments where you're stirred up by something other than just the news and anxiety and media around you, and then seek out those things, opportunities to look at art, to read poems, to read good literature, to listen to songs, to play music, sing with people you know. Those are beautiful opportunities that reflect the richness of who we are as people and the needs that we have.
Awesome. So I want to thank everybody again for sharing this and giving us the opportunity. This is going to go on for quite some time, as everybody knows. So perhaps we'll need to come together again and share more, because through this pandemic, we're all just people through it, and we're all in it together, and all of our compassion and our caring and how careful we're going to be are going to come through, and Drumheller, we will get through it. It will be hard. I won't sugarcoat it, but we will get through it. So thank you very much, and Drum cares.